Welcome to Nurse Burnout Solutions, the show that empowers you to beat stress, reclaim your energy, and discover lasting fulfillment in your nursing career. I'm your host, Betty McLean. I'm a nurse with over 20 years of experience, and I'm also a certified life and certified burnout coach. I'm here to share expert insights with you, a lot of practical tools, and some inspiring stories. So join me as we navigate the challenges of a career in healthcare, and I help you find renewed purpose and resiliency, one episode at a time. All right, so we are back with another episode, and this is my first episode with a guest. So, Dr. Nidhi Agrawal, I am excited to have you on. So, for our listening audience, Nidhi is a certified burnout coach. We met in our burnout certification program, and she has been a fabulous coach for me and a fabulous friend in this industry. So, Nidhi, I would love for you just to talk about, first of all, what do you do in healthcare? What is your role? And then how you found life coaching and burnout coaching and what that looks like. What does your life look like?
Hi, Betty. Thank you so much for having me on. It's such an honor to be here, and especially as your first guest. So I've been a physician for about 25 years. And a few years ago, I was really struggling with juggling multiple balls in the air, being a working parent, being a physician, and wanting to do things in the best possible way and as perfectly as possible, and not let anyone down, whether that be my family or my patients or anybody else. So I was really struggling with that, and at some point it just all kind of came crashing down around my ears, and I had to take a break from working for a few months because I just couldn't keep up the pace and the level of expectations that I had for myself. I think that was a really helpful time, though. Looking back, that's how I found coaching, because I realized I needed to do something differently. If what I was doing up until that point just wasn't working for me anymore. So it had served me well, but it wasn't working for me at that point anymore.
Yeah.
So I was very lucky. I found life coach school coaching, and I sort of went all in on the program and myself and working towards what I wanted my career and professional and personal lives to look like. And I think that having been on somewhat of a burnout journey, I think I have learned so much about being in healthcare, about being the person that I want to be, and my strengths and weaknesses, and how they have shaped who I am as a physician and who I am as a professional woman. And I really think that I have never had more to offer. I've never felt that I have more to accomplish than I do now. And I have never felt in as much of a positive environment as I do now, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's very cool. So when you had that experience of like everything kind of came crashing down, what did that look like for you? So I know a lot of people, when they experience burnout, they end up having physical symptoms. They end up having a lot of internal dialogue issues that aren't nice. For me, I had a lot of dread and anxiety dealing with going back to work, and a lot of just dread was the primary thing, and a lot of I dealt with a lot of imposter syndrome. Like, I thought I was slipping. I had been a nurse for 17 years, and I thought, oh my gosh, I can't cut it anymore. So for you, what did that look like when everything kind of came crashing down?
Oh, so Betty, I think you're talking about having a lot more insight than I think I had at the time.
Yeah.
I don't think I had as much awareness of my anxiety or my perfectionism or what I was trying to do was almost impossible.
Yeah.
And I think for me, a lot of it was professional. My performance was still good professionally, but my work relationships were really suffering, and I not only had unreasonable expectations of myself at the time, but I also had unreasonable expectations, I think, of my team. And I think that for me was really the breaking point, because I didn't realize that that I had all these unreasonable expectations that nobody could meet, including myself, for any extended period of time, but that people were around me weren't enjoying working with me. It was just in a very negative, creating a very negative work environment without even realizing it. I think for me, that was really my aha moment. And I really, I mean, I wanted to question why that was happening. I didn't feel like, I definitely didn't want it to happen. I didn't want people to not enjoy working with me.
Right.
And I think it was definitely a great turning point for me to see, where I could change things and where what I was doing just wasn't working for me. And I needed to figure out what that was, what I was doing that wasn't working for me, as well as then decide how I wanted to change it. And I think the difference from what I'm hearing from what you described to where I was is knowing I knew that something that I was doing wasn't working, but I didn't know what that something was.
Yeah. So actually, my ability to identify it was dread, it was imposter syndrome. That's all post coaching.
Okay.
So when
my perfectionism is definitely in the rearview mirror. Right.
Right. You're looking back, going, "Oh yeah, I was definitely my expectations were crazy inappropriate. I thought I needed to be perfect." Yeah. No, all of that, understanding that dread, that anxiety, that I'm slipping thought, all of that awareness is after I found coaching.
Exactly. And I think this is where, if your audience is going to take one thing away from today, it would be that things can change and things can change for the better. And I think if I had known that then, I don't think I would have been where I was. I think there's this, we go into healthcare as these, with these really high expectations that not only we have of ourselves, but I think the culturally in society has of us too, which is great. That's who we are. But I think that only works for up to a point. And then after that, I think we kind of tip over into trying to do too much and accomplish more than I think. I think I also was putting emphasis on things. Looking back on it now, I think I was putting emphasis on things that were less important and not enough emphasis on things that were more important, such as, yes, my work performance was great, but I think my work relationships would have been more important for me to work on, just in a general, as my own values in my life. I think my people relationships are the most important thing in my life. My relationships define me a lot more than what I do at work. Yeah. So I think there's that too.
Yeah. Well, that's interesting that you mention your values, because the way that I define or categorize burnout, right? I say that there are 4 categories of burnout, starting with early stage, middle stage, late stage, and then the final stage. And right there in the middle and late stage, one of the characteristics is you lose sight of your values, and your actions are not in alignment with your core values that you
with who you
started.
Right.
Yeah, who you are, why you came into healthcare, all of that, because you've been so focused on performance. And again, not that performance is bad, but you've been focused on it in a way that detracts from your other values.
I love that you said that. I love how you said that. I totally agree with you. I think you lose yourself a little bit in, and you become more about what you are doing than who you are. And I think that human doing versus that human being aspect really it almost kind of divides you a little bit. And I think that's where you're trying to do more that you don't need to do and not be you, be yourself, which is where everything in your life is going to come from.
Yeah. I like to, and you've heard me say this, but I like to contrast perfectionism with excellence, right? Because perfectionism is about, I need to do everything right so that people like me, people respect me, so that I like myself. I need to be perfect so that nothing goes wrong, right? Whereas if we focus on doing things excellently, it's about the end product. It's about the patient. It's about doing the right thing for them regardless of whether I'm right or wrong. It's not about me, right? Perfectionism is self-focused, and excellence, doing things with excellence, is patient-focused.
Also,
So, yeah.
I think excellence is also about doing the best you can.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
it's not about, and by doing the best I can do, it's not about my performance.
Right.
It's about how I make people feel and
Right.
how I relate to people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is so critical and so key and so easily lost
Mm-hmm.
in that cauldron of what of what you were referring to about the middle and late stage of burnout. That whole cauldron really mixes up and almost dissolves that sense of who you want to be and how you want to be showing up versus what you focus on, and how many patients you see in a day, or how many physicals you do in a day, or how many shots you give in a day, and versus how did those patients leave with getting what they came for?
Yes. Yes. Were they seen? Were they heard? Did they
Exactly.
feel, yes, you cared for their body, but did they feel cared for?
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Such a big point.
Yeah. Well, we've touched on this a little bit, and obviously we're both still very passionate about our work in healthcare, but what are some things that you do to stay motivated and passionate about your role as a physician, despite, I know there are a lot of challenges still?
Yeah. Yeah, so I think the one thing that I would like to say is that I think that it is a very challenging, but it's also the best of both worlds
Mm,
to be actively practicing medicine and be a coach.
mm,
And I think that you and I are the exception with that. I think a lot of healthcare coaches are not actively providing patient care as part of their career at the same time.
Yes.
And I think that gives us a perspective and a wisdom that I think that we can share with our clients and our patients
Mm-hmm.
in a way that if you're doing one or the other, you don't always have the same perspective and the same access to those points and those skills. So I think that's really important to point out. And I think it makes us better coaches and better healthcare providers that we are doing both at the same time. Really, I do firmly believe that. I think in terms of being in healthcare now, I think that the positives for me is, the overarching one is that what I'm doing is not only making a difference to my patients, but it's also helping me evolve as I navigate the challenges. Yeah. I think that we're going to be thrown challenges, whether we are in healthcare or not, whether we are, whether it's from a family perspective or anything else perspective, any goal anything you're doing in your life, you're going to be facing challenges. So that's good. 100%. But I think the difference between being in burnout and now for me is that I don't feel that there is no way out, that I can't change anything, and that I'm powerless, and that this is what is given to me. I feel like every challenge is an opportunity for me to ask questions about what is really happening here? What do I need to stay focused on? How do I want to show up in this situation? How can I move towards a result or an outcome that reflects who I am and maintains my integrity, but still moves me forward in a way that gets me the result that I want? And I think that is, I think just having the awareness that the challenge does not define me, and that I have options in terms of how I want to try to overcome the challenge. I think for me, that is probably the biggest significant change, that I don't have to fall to just because a challenge arises, that I can rise and I can overcome challenges. For me, that has been, especially at work where I feel we're in such a regulated environment that that our hands are tied often so much. There's so much hierarchical rules and regulations. There's so much administrative rules and regulations, not just documentation, but also, the chain of command and things like that. And I think that working in those constraints
Yeah.
I think I still feel that I have options when challenges arise, and that I still have a voice, and I still have myself to lean on to find possible avenues for overcoming those challenges. Does that, am I answering?
That so makes sense, because when I think about motivation, right, I often think about motivation in terms of running. I know we're both runners. Like, you're never motivated to go on that training run, right?
No.
Until you slow down and you ask, well, what's the opportunity here? How do I want to show up at my next race? How do I want to show up for my body? How, and you get to that value and you're like, oh, I am motivated to do this, right? And I think what I'm hearing from you is coaching has allowed you to stay very empowered and to stay engaged, even in situations where you don't, you don't seem to have a lot of power. As a nurse, like, I'm right there with you, like the regulations, the administration, protocols, the policies, right? Everything is saying you have no power. You have no power. You have no power, right? It's all on the hospital system. It's all on the clinic. It's all on the protocols, right? It's all on your manager. But what I've experienced as well, and what it sounds like you've experienced, is coaching and the tools that we use to get out of burnout are so empowering that it doesn't matter that the system isn't necessarily built for us to feel powerful. We can feel powerful within ourselves. And that, for me at least, has changed my whole experience of being a nurse. It's like, yeah, the system has got problems, but I can still show up and be excellent and be motivated and be the best that I can be, because I lean, like you said, lean on myself, lean on my own tools and my own internal power. So
I think that is probably I think leaning on my, it's what we were saying before. We come back to ourselves, right? We're coming back to who we are, and not what we're doing. And I think that is, like, when I'm in a situation that is challenging, I think about who I want to be in that situation. Okay, I want to be respectful, and I want to be productive, and I want to make sure that I am even following the rules and regulations. That's part of my decision making. And okay, well, within those constraints, this is what I can do. I can call and ask for help. I can alert somebody who does have the authority to change something. I can communicate. I can even just a simple, like, when I'm seeing patients, sometimes there's going to be things that people need sooner, and sometimes there's things that people need that can wait. Even just employing that simple strategy on in those busy, overwhelming moments that we all have in clinic or in the hospital. Even just taking a moment to just say, I have the power to decide which patient's needs I'm going to address next, which patient I think has the most urgent needs in this moment right now. Even something like that is still more empowering than, oh my goodness, I've got 15 patients and clinic's supposed to end in an hour. That's kind of the difference. Feeling like you've had a great day at work versus feeling like you have not a great day at work. Right?
Yes. That's so interesting, because, like, when I worked in the hospital, I did a lot of precepting. So I would take the new grads and have them for, 4 to 6 to 8 weeks, training them up on how to do things, how to follow the protocols, but also how to make those decisions. And it was always interesting to me, because there was this sense in most people that, like, the shift was happening to them. Right? And for a long time, before I had a couple of traumatic experiences and started to get into that position as well and get into burnout, I didn't experience that. I happened to the shift. It was my decision who I saw first. It was my clinical judgment that said which did I need to call the doctor on and which could I handle, right? It was, right. And that was very empowering. And it was hard for me to teach that, though, without now that I have my coaching skills, I'm like, oh, I know what I was missing there. I didn't know how to teach empowerment.
And I think
That's what,
also,
yeah,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that I think that coaching has allowed me to be aware when I'm making those decisions now,
Yes.
which I wasn't always. I probably was making those decisions then, but they were just happening in the background. I think now I'm saying, okay, I don't want this clinic to be this chaotic, so I'm going to slow everything down.
Right.
And one of the ways I'm going to do that is to make these decisions.
Yep.
And everybody's still going to get everything they need. All the patients are still going to get seen. All the patients' medications are all going to be called in. All the patients are going to have everything they need. That's not a problem. Yeah. But I have to do it in a way that I am still not going to burn myself out, and everybody has their needs. I think before coaching, I would have done it in a way that I wasn't really a factor as much. Yeah. And I think that I love that coaching has brought me so much consciousness and so much deliberation in terms of what I'm choosing in a moment versus before, when I was so much more on default of what was expected to happen at any given moment. I think that for me is also a really big piece of the change from quote unquote before and after.
Yeah, yeah. I love that. So is there anything that you are personally doing now to manage acute stress so that you prevent burnout in the future?
I actually, and I know that this is a favorite topic of ours, but I'm actually giving more to myself for each shift that I work on than I ever have given before. I always, knew I was going to work. It was important. I wanted to show up as a professional, but I think before it was on a much more superficial level. I think now I am making sure I have a lot more nourishing food with me each day, that I'm taking more breaks during my shift, that I'm well rested, that I'm sort of paying attention more to what I need, because my firm, honest to goodness belief is that the more we take care of our healthcare professionals, the better patient care they will be able to provide. You cannot not take care of your healthcare professionals and expect them to give good patient care or the best patient care or is even better patient care than they're providing now. It will always improve. When we feel cared for as healthcare professionals, we will give better care. I think we're just how it works, right?
Mic drop, say it louder for the people at the top. When you take care of your healthcare professionals, they take better care of the patients. Full stop. Yes.
Right? So I
think
it
starts
that
with ourselves.
And is this really such an epiphany? I guess.
No, apparently. Apparently.
News to me. So I am actually taking some time to meal prep for the weeks that I'm working multiple shifts. I'm taking some time to plan out, what I'm going to be doing in, on my days that I'm in the clinic and not in the clinic, or whatever I'm doing. As healthcare professionals, I think time is of a premium. We're expected to get so much more done in an 8-hour day or a 12-hour shift than any other human on earth. And I think, except maybe moms, and I think that time is always such a premium. Patients are always, the tenet that patients should not have to wait. I don't know about, I don't know, again, another unrealistic expectation that we're all trying to live up to. And I think that planning out how I'm going to use all of the time that I'm at work in a less haphazard, in a more planned way, I think is, for me, an essence of my time management, that I know I have these many hours that I'm going to need to get all of these things done. And I am spending more time planning out how all of those things are going to get accomplished. And I think one of the, definitely time management as a tool by itself, but also just chunking out. I'm not trying to get everything done in one shift. Out of all the emails I have to send and all of the other things that I have to get done, I'm planning out, on this day I'm going to get these 3 sent, on this day I'm going to get this done, and on this day I'm going to get this done. By the end of the week, everything will be done, but just not maybe by 5 o'clock on Monday. Right. And I think that, again, we're changing my expectations, leaning on my on my own agency to know A, what I have to get done, and B, how I'm going to do it, and C, now when I'm going to do it, I think is probably one of the ways that I'm kind of caring for myself, because now I'm not worrying about when am I going to do everything? How's everything going to get done? Like all of that mental messaging is much quieter now, because I know on this day I'm going to get this done, and by the end of the week, everything that I need will be done.
Yeah. Well, and I love that, because when we take that chaos in our brain and we're like, oh my gosh,
Yeah,
I've just got so much to do, right? And we actually lay it out in a logical way, it really does lower your stress, because it allows your
yeah,
body to actually respond to actual stressors, right? Because when we have
yeah,
all that
sure.
chaos in our brain and then we have a code, it's like, well, I don't have room for this, right?
Right.
And that's where we get into trauma,
Right. I agree
where,
with you. I think that
yeah,
turning down that roof chatter
yep,
initially really creates a lot of space for us to be available for the more demanding aspects of our work that are also always going to be there. There's
mm-hmm,
always going to be the next emergency, the next code, as you say, the next
mm-hmm,
drop everything and go and attend to this patient. You're right. To create that space for that is not going to happen when you're already putting out fires with, constantly putting out fires from roof
yeah.
chatter.
Yeah, yeah. When we have a more stable, this is the essence of resiliency. When we have a stable internal dialogue and a stable internal sense of self, it is so much easier to respond to trauma and to stressors in the environment, because, like you said, you're leaning on yourself. You're leaning on your logic and your reasoning, and that keeps that primitive part of our brain safe, right? Like I think that's brilliant, and I love that you are leaning into
And
that.
also
So
just
good.
knowing that I have the option, I have the ability to get everything done. I think when we're in burnout, I think we lose sight of
Mm,
we don't triage anything.
yeah, yeah,
Everything is the same importance level. But I also think that, just knowing that everything I want to get done will get done. I think just even, I mean, even as I say that sentence to you, it
mm,
sounds more organized and deliberate and slower than, I have to get everything done now. I think that is just knowing that everything I want to have done can be done is so freeing and reduces my stress levels so much.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. All right. Well, what if people are listening and they really resonate with your experience and they want to follow you or contact you, how should they do that?
Oh, yeah, sure. So I have a website. It is www.resultscoachmd.com. Results Coach MD is all one word, all small letters. And they can go there. They can check out my burnout program, my time program. We touched a little bit on time and some goals.
Mm.
And yeah, I would love to hear anybody's feedback about what they've heard. You can also check me out on Instagram as with the same handle, Results Coach MD. And yeah, let's start a conversation. I want to hear where people are, what their experience has been, and where they would like to be but don't think they could be. I think
Yeah.
for me that's my biggest question, because I knew where I wanted to be but I just couldn't see how I could get there.
How you can get there. Exactly. I love that. Well, Nidhi, this has been an amazing conversation. I always love talking with you, because we are in so much alignment as far as how coaching can change people's lives, and when we change our life, we change the life of everyone around us. So thank you
Sure.
for a lovely conversation as always. So
Thanks, Betty. I really
welcome.
am so grateful to you for having me on and introducing me to your audience, and yeah, love you. I love working with you.
Thank you. Thank you. Same. Right back at you. Thanks for listening today to Nurse Burnout Solutions. Remember, I really believe that all stress is manageable and burnout is not inevitable. If you are struggling with stress or in burnout, I can help. Check out the show notes for ways that we can connect and get you the support that you deserve.